It's May Day. It's May 1st. It's Prayer Day. It's Day of Reason. And the month is Mental Health Month. Did I get them all? I think I did. Great to have you in. Welcome to My State of Mind. I am Dan York. Tonight we will talk about Mental Health Month with a couple of folks who are experts in the mental health field. There's some interesting data about mental health that you need to know about. And, you know, I always kind of used to whack Patrick Kennedy around, sometimes for sport. But as he got later in his congressional life, I thought he did a nice job in equitizing the mental health issue with physical health issues, and he's still doing great work on that. He's not my guest tonight, but he comes to mind when we talk about mental health and mental health parity and all of that, and we'll talk about that this evening with my two fine guests. So, with no further ado, let's go to the rundown and talk about some of the things that are on my mind, in my mind, on my state of mind, weeknight 7:30. There's a Chris Rock bit. Did you ever hear it? That's what he's supposed to do. Well, that's, yes. Really interesting stuff going on right now with the master lever, which is making progress, meaning the repeal of the master lever. This is confusing. I can't figure out if it's about safety, about regulations, about revenue. I can't figure it out. Maybe you can. What else do I have here? Bad number. It kind of slides into what we're talking about tonight. And yes, it's time to drop the puck again, waiting for all those game sevens to finish off. All right, let's dig in. What do we have here? That's what he's supposed to do. So it was kind of like big news, right? Here was the headline. Gordon Fox, the Speaker of the House, once removed. In other words, the guy who was raided a few weeks back, came back and showed up for work. Interestingly enough, on the Newsmaker show with Tim and Ted and the crowd, Nick Mattiello, the new House Speaker, along with John DeSimone, the new Majority Leader, projected whether or not Gordon Fox would ever show up again. Here's what they guessed.
Do either of you anticipate to see Gordon Fox back in the chamber again this session?
Well, that's up to Gordon Fox. Honestly, I would be very surprised.
Uh-oh. Well, you shouldn't be, Nick, because Gordon showed up yesterday amongst much fanfare. I guess the word got out that he was hovering around the building and the news trucks came flying. Here's a bit from Eyewitness News last night.
I knew I had to come back. It's the responsible thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
Gordon Fox is no longer Speaker of the House, no longer the most powerful man in Rhode Island politics. Just a simple Providence representative finishing out his term.
I was Chairman of Finance, Majority Leader, Speaker. To be a rank and file member, you got to go back to 2000, I think.
Over 20 years in the Assembly. I asked Fox today if he even knew where he was sitting.
I think I do. I don't know where I park or any of that, so it's all new. So it's a learning experience. Some ways it's back. It's like going back to a school you haven't been to in 20 years.
This, by the way, is his seat in the very last row.
That's demoralizing. I mean, Gordon's giddy because he's nervous, but that's demoralizing. But to his credit, he came to work. As we've been saying here, he's been drawing down now half his speaker salary at the regular salary for all reps at $14,000 and change, and a $20,000 health plan. You better show up for work. But isn't it funny? Everyone gives him a pat on the back and applauds him for doing what he's supposed to do. It's big news when he shows up and does what he's supposed to do. That's because the bar is so low for expectations. We applaud people for just doing what they're supposed to do. Interesting, Nick Mattiello, the new Speaker of the House, did not meet Gordon Fox on the floor for any kind of symbolic handshake or anything like that, hug, kiss, whatever, you know, kiss on the cheek, you know what I mean? You know, I don't know where I came up with that one. Sometimes I just... Bail me out, Kev. You're on your own there, Chubby. But my point here is that he was over the top when he first took over on the rostrum, and it was wise for him to keep his distance. All right, regroup. Let's get the show back. Next item. Master lever politics. This is fascinating, and we still have a little bit of Nick Mattiello in this because what happened at the House Judiciary, we have the headline from yesterday. I brought this on. It happened 2 nights ago, but I mentioned this last night. But I'm learning about the progress of this whole thing. But let me take you through it for just a second. The master lever, of course, is the magic marker. It used to be, boom, you pull the curtain behind you, and then you click on Democrat or Republican. you know, and then the machine would go because you mastered the lever. You picked all Democrats or Republicans. Now you use a magic marker, and you go, and a lot of you mess it up. It's so funny. Nick Mattiello, the new House Speaker, told Tim and Ted on Newsmakers that the geezers like it. This cracks me up.
Is there an argument to keep it from either of you?
Yes, a lot of elderly folks like to use it. Now, even though they don't come in and testify, and they vote, but even though, then I don't expect that they're going to come in and testify and say, Speaker, please keep the master lever because I want to use it one day every 2 years. They're not going to do that. But do I believe they actually like using it? Yes, I believe a lot of people appreciate it and like using it.
Kind of like, you know, it's like sweet and low in their coffee. Yeah, they like to use the sweet and low. Like, what is he talking about? But I get his point. To his credit, he pushed this thing along in House Judiciary. Ken Block, the moderate party, former moderate party, now Republican candidate for governor, who's been at this for a while, meaning ridding us of the master lever, and along with OCG, Operation Clean Government, and those folks have been at it for 20 years, talked about it on the radio with me yesterday.
What we saw last night was our legislature responding to the needs of people and to the stark facts that were presented to them, and frankly, just doing the right thing. And that's change in this state. When we get our legislature voting on issues not based on special interests, but based on the general interest, like what happened last night, we're making progress, and I'm happy to report that we are, in fact, making progress.
That's a good thing. It's nice to inspire and actually check off government doing the right thing. So now the master lever repeal issue will go to the whole House floor. However, on the Senate side, not so much. The Senate Judiciary Committee has held it for further study. Why? Because of this woman. Dun, 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 dun. Senate President Teresa Paiva Weed. She now is in a battle with Nick Mattiello, the new House Speaker, over this particular matter. Reportedly, according to the folks I speak with, the Senate President wants to protect the Democratic Party. Old guard, new guard. You choose. Stay tuned. Next item. Parking ticket priorities. I just got a kick out of this today. The Providence Journal headline, overnight parking fine may be cut. This is in Cranston, right? Okay, so let me see if I understand this correctly. In 2009, the parking ticket fine in Cranston was $15, the overnight fine, and not enough people were taking it seriously, reportedly. So in order to improve the congestion, they moved it to $50. But now the police officers, not liking the $50, have decided that they're not going to prosecute, meaning they're not going to put a lot of tickets out. Now, this is all aside from the big parking ticket blitz thing, which made the parking ticket blitz thing all crazy, right? Because when all those tickets showed up, it was an anomaly. So now Alan Fung and his finance guy are going to go to the city council and ask for the $50 to be reduced to the $25. The first move in 2009 was about compliance. Now they say, well, we're not getting enough revenue, so let's drop the price to $25 from $50. And this is the interesting part in Greg Smith's story in the Journal today. Alan Fung says, although I'm the public safety commissioner, I do not run the day-to-day operations of the department, and I got to rely on my command staff to make those decisions, meaning he can't pursue and pressure his own police department to ticket properly. That's why I call Alan Fung a B- player. You want to run the state, and you can't get your officers to do what you think they ought to do? Anyway, I'm always perplexed. Is it about revenue? Is it about compliance? Is it about security? Is it about safety? Is it about quality of life? What is it about these parking tickets? I don't know. Next item. Not good. Not good, not good, not good, not good. This number is not good. The headline, oh boy, we're up 23% on overdose deaths. This is not funny. This is absolutely tragic. And the director of health, Dr. Fine, had a thought on it.
People with cancer need multiple rounds of treatment. People with HIV need to stay on treatment. And people with addiction, we need to talk about it. We need to help them get into recovery. We need to help them get into treatment.
The one thing you need to know about this, and we've done shows on this before, and I keep hammering this home, do not lend your prescription drugs to anybody. Don't do it. because the reliance and the addiction on prescription drugs, 7 out of 10 people who are addicted to prescription drugs got them from somebody else as opposed to a doctor. So don't lend your drugs. We'll talk more about mental health and that kind of stuff when we come back. And the last item is, let's go, drop the puck. Actually, the puck's probably dropping as we speak. The Bruins and Montreal had to wait for all these other Game 7s. Practice is boring when you're in the middle of the season, ready to go. How about my Rangers, though, eking one out? How about those Los Angeles Kings coming from a 3-0 deficit to win that series? Amazing. All right, stay tuned. Mental Health Month, May is. At least it's a beautiful month, weather-wise. Stay with us. I didn't know that May was Mental Health Month until my buddy Mike Rattay, who helps this company along, says, hey, dummy, don't you know that it's Mental Health Month and you ought to start thinking about it and talking about it? All right. If you buy me a beer, I will. All right, so we're doing it. Now, this is important stuff here. This is data that I wanted to show you here that comes from the information that was supplied to me. It's horrifying, actually. 1 in 4 adults experience mental illness. 61 million Americans per year are either diagnosed or carrying it, and people with serious mental illness die way too quick. So we got to do something about that. I'm not so sure that it's horrifying that people are diagnosed with it. I just think it's probably horrifying that we're not doing great things about it, right? Do my guests agree?
Definitely.
All right. I'm ahead of the game. I'm making a comeback. Kristen is here along with Leah, and they are Regional Director and Director of Residential Services of the Fellowship Health Resources Organization, which is multi-state, correct?
Yes.
You have an office in Lincoln, Rhode Island. And so before we get into the stuff, real quick, what is it that you guys do?
So we are a multi-state behavioral health care organization. We are in 7 states up the East Coast. And we serve about 4,000 individuals diagnosed with mental illness and substance abuse. And in Rhode Island specifically, we have a few different types of programs. One's an outpatient program, one's a residential group treatment program, and one's a community outreach program. And we're working on bringing a clubhouse model in as well.
A clubhouse model?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So essentially it's a place where people with mental illness can come and start working on vocation skills to get them back into the community and back into work. Sort of a peer-based model where it's a group effort to get people to build community and build the skills needed to get back out to the community.
How long have you been working in this field?
6.5 years.
You're like, well, you got such a beautiful smile. if I'm having a bad mental health day, I'm just going to have you
come and see me.
Can you come on most days?
Yeah,
Not that you don't.
Of course, no, I won't take offense.
I may not get out of here alive tonight. Did you see the opening of the show? I mean, Kevin's like, you're on your own there, Pally. But you do, and you would brighten anybody's day, even if they're having a bad mental health day. But on a less than lighter note, it's not that easy, is it?
No, but I mean, I think one of the things that makes our organization special is that we believe that recovery is possible. So even if it's a tough day, that day, I know the next day is most likely going to be better.
Because
I've seen it. I've seen people come to us from really difficult times, jail, the state hospital, and they come to us for a little while and they move on with their lives. They get back with their families. They become part of the community again.
I mentioned Patrick Kennedy at the top of the show simply because with his challenges, forget the political stuff. I mean, the most earnest work I think he did in office and continues to do is to try to bring some discussion of parity of mental health to everything else. You agree?
I do.
The stigma is unbearable, isn't it, for a lot of people?
It really is, yes.
Talk to me about that.
So essentially, the Parity Act would really reduce a lot of the stigma. It's bringing equality to treatment, both medical and behavioral health together. So a person who has a diagnosis of mental illness can get the same rights as a person who has a medical illness. And so again, that would sort of reduce the stigma, and it's more accepted. Hey, this is a whole body here. It's your mind and your body. It's not just one part.
It's easy to write a law, although it wasn't easy to write laws about this. But still, there's a social part of this whole thing that probably hasn't caught up, right?
Yeah, and I think part of what we talked about with May is Mental Health Month. We had the kickoff yesterday at the State House, and a young woman got up and talked about...
I think we have some pictures of that. Not to interrupt you, I just want to make sure. I'm sorry.
No, that's
Usually
okay.
they just fire that stuff
Oh, I thought
off.
they were going to put it on.
They know
okay.
exactly. You know what? They know exactly what they're doing. Me tonight, not so much. But you were saying.
Okay, a young woman got up and she talked about being in DCYF care and having anxiety and having these problems, but not wanting to get help because of the stigma. And I think that's what Patrick Kennedy has done, is shown that I'm from one of the most prominent political families in the country, but I have a mental illness and I'll speak about it publicly. And I think that's opened a lot of doors for people.
Okay, you know, when we come back, we'll talk about what is this mental illness thing? Because there's a little difference between, well, you know what? Let me not elaborate. We'll ask the experts the question. I've taken enough flyers on this show tonight. We'll come right back because this is important stuff. Stay with us. So that's a little bit of a look at the website, and it was just pointed out to me during the break that this wonderful organization known as Fellowship Health Resources has its corporate office in Lincoln, Rhode Island, but the actual walk-in and treatment centers for the Rhode Island region are in Cranston, and that's where my two guests work. And how many states are you guys in? Seven different states. So before we get back into some of this, what is mental health? What is a mental health challenge with the varying levels and degrees? What kind of services are you actually providing on the ground for someone who says, I think I got a problem? What do they do? They walk into your joint and just say, help?
Yeah, I mean, they can walk in, they can call us, and you know, we go through a referral process. We have a clinician who assesses the person, what their needs are, what their strengths are, what they want to do. And based on that information, we can either say, hey, yes, we have the services for you, or we can refer them elsewhere.
Are you for-profit, not-for-profit?
Not-for-profit.
Not-for-profit, all right, but you still run it like a business, that's for sure. It's got to run like a business to be successful. This May is Mental Health Month thing. Is that new, by the way? Has that been May's been Mental Health Month for how long? Long time?
Several Mays.
Several Mays. See, I got you on the trivia question.
Yeah,
you
you
don't
did.
know. That was really
It's not on my
good.
talking points.
See, she goes to Bryant for an MBA. She knows how to dodge the tough questions, but it doesn't really matter. It's important that people know about it.
Sure.
Do you think the significance of a month being named actually helps the cause of? Yes.
I think so. I think especially with mental illness, a lot of people are marginalized or isolated. So here's a whole month talking about the issues that they may be facing. So I think it's really important.
As we get to this parity thing, and as the laws are kind of requiring everyone to kind of treat this thing the same, and as we climb the social adherence to that concept, what are people who are watching the show who think they might have a little touch of mental illness, or people in their families or friends or who might have a touch of mental illness, supposed to think about that? In other words, how do you know you ought to be thinking about the idea that you're not right?
How do you know? I mean, I think for everyone it's different, and I think that's the challenge to mental illness. But I think one of the key things is, how is it affecting your day-to-day life? Are you having trouble getting up in the morning? Are you having trouble getting to work, or can you not get to work? Are you having trouble caring for yourself? Are you having trouble in relationships? I think those are the key things to look at first, and then recognizing that it's important, and then talking to a clinician who can then further diagnose what that actually means.
It's kind of a vague diagnosable world, though, isn't it?
It is.
It's science and neuroscience and psychological science, but it's not exact, is it?
Not totally, no. And that's why it's very important, if you feel like you have any of those symptoms, anything just doesn't feel right, is to really just go out and seek help. And I think May's Mental Health Month really says to people, it's okay, you know, and then there's a calendar full of events that people can go to and just sort of educate themselves about what they should be looking for, or what they can be doing, and how their life may become a bit better.
Do you think doctors, regular doctors, you know, the guy that you see or the gal that you see once a year are picking this stuff up good enough?
I think it probably depends. I think recently we see it more where doctors have a good understanding, but I mean, society itself has only been talking about mental illness very recently. So for someone who's been working for a long time, they may not have learned in medical school what it looks like. And I think it depends on the individual practitioner. We're very lucky that the doctors we work with have a very good understanding of mental illness and show some real compassion and some competency.
Well, it seems to me you probably should tell your regular doc that things don't feel right that way, and most of them are at least accustomed to the idea that there's ways to get help, right?
Yes.
But this prescription overdose thing is a big problem. Yes?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
I mean, what up with that?
It's frightening. It's frightening, and I think there's so many different areas that are causing the overdose crisis. It's not just people are addicts. I think it's that.
Well, too many people are borrowing drugs, I'll tell you that
I think
much. You get your
borrowing-
first issue of Vicodin, and all of a sudden you like it, and your buddy goes, oh, I had somebody to use. Here, you just take mine. Oh,
Sure.
you're off and gone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lend drugs, right?
Right.
That's so preventable.
And throw out your old drugs,
Right.
especially if you have teenagers.
Like we did last weekend. They
Yeah.
had the big program.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped mine off. Nobody was watching it, though. That's a whole other conversation. No, it's like security.
Is it a
drives me
locked
crazy.
box?
It wasn't locked. It was wide open. But it was in a secure area, sort of. Anyway.
We'll come back and talk about that.
Wrap up. What's your message to everybody in Mental Health Month?
I think for us that recovery is possible, and no matter what someone is facing, there is help available to them.
Simple, right?
Absolutely. You don't have to suffer in silence. There is help out there. There is treatment.
All right. And you guys are in Cranston. Again,
Yes.
it's Behavioral Healthcare Services. Do we have that info? Behavioral Healthcare Services in Cranston. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Your state of mind when we come back. Stay with us. You know, I feel so strongly about this mental health thing, and if you don't feel right, just walk into a facility like our guests are at. Here's a website where you can get all the information. We'll post that. We have that. There it is, fellowshiphr.org. You can put a www dot in front of that to make it go faster on the internet, but you know what I'm saying. Or if somebody you know needs some little help, you know, just a little nudge can go a long way. We want everyone to live long and happy lives. By the way, if you have something you want to say about the broadcast, what you've seen here tonight, or anything that's on your mind, we take your voicemail at 228-1886. Of course, stateofmind@myeritv.com is the email. You can Facebook and tweet at me. Just don't leave out the E. Here's somebody's post. Is this an email I think that we have here tonight? Yep. Ray writes, how can a politician like Clay Pell give his campaign a loan of $2 million? That's not a loan. With a 2-term salary, benefits, or whatever else he can steal, he can't pay it back with the money he earns in office? Or am I naive? Ray, he might get some of that money back, but they make $100,000 a year, the governor. Okay? Like 120. The crime is that people can buy elections. They don't worry about getting the money back. You know, if you got them, smoke them. That's their thought. See you tomorrow, 7:30 on MyRITV.